So Steve Tandy has been appointed as Wales men's head coach. So let's talk about it. Make a cup of tea, this could be a long one. So a bit of background on Steve Tandy. I'll turn this way, it's better light. Bit of background on Steve Tandy. He, as a player, played for Neath pre-regionalisation, then played for the Ospreys. He played as a flanker. He had a reasonably successful playing career, winning the Magners League, Pro 12, Rugby Direct, whatever it was back then, a few times with the Ospreys. Then as a coach, he initially, I think it was Tondy he started at, then went to Bridgend, I want to say, in what was the championship at the time, and then got promoted to the Ospreys mid-season, and I want to say it was the 11-12 season for the Ospreys. Got promoted mid-season and had an immediate positive impact. Went on an amazing winning run, I want to say 13 wins in a row, and the Ospreys lifted the title. It was one of the early seasons of the playoff structure coming into that league, and they got to a final, finished second in the league, got to a final against Leinster, and that was the famous Dan Biggar touchline kick to win it, touchline conversion, I think, from Shane Williams' try to win it, I believe. So an immediate impact there. He then stayed at the Ospreys for quite a few seasons until 2018. Interestingly, for the next couple of seasons, one of his regional rival coaches was Simon Easterby, who was the other name in the hat for the Wales men's head coach. And when they were rivals, it was only 2 seasons. We think of it as being longer, but it was only 2 seasons. In the first season, Easterby finished above Tandy's Ospreys with the Scarlets, but then in the second season, Tandy finished above Easterby. So it was 1 each in terms of league position, but in the head-to-heads, when they played each other, the Ospreys won all 4 games, the double headers in each season. So it was 4-0 to Steve Tandy. So point to Tandy over Easterby there. I should have added a second ago, the Ospreys winning the league back then, for anybody who's kind of new to Welsh rugby and believes this thing that the regions have always been bad, no, not true. The Ospreys were kind of winning the league every other season at that point. So they'd won 2 seasons before that, and then 2 seasons before that, then 2 seasons before that. So the Ospreys were 4-time league champions when they won that title under Tandy. And so, it's side fact, 100% of the Celtic League URC titles won by Welsh regions were won by the West Wales regions, but don't let the WRU hear that. So, successful in his first season, in a very strong Ospreys squad. I think it's fair to say the strongest squad the Ospreys or any Welsh region has ever had, that era of Ospreys. Lost a lot of players after that. The squad dipped in quality, and as the squad dipped in quality, the kind of results dipped as well. Struggled to make the playoffs. After that was kind of in the 5th kind of zone for a couple of years, then dipped to 8th at one point, got back to 4th. So 1 playoff position achieved with the Ospreys post that initial title win. And then it went quite bad quite quickly after that, and things went quite peak-tong. The rumours were that he had a big falling out with the players, big names like Alan Wynne-Jones, etc., etc. I don't know, that's just the rumours. And he left the Ospreys under quite a cloud. He left mid-season, results were that bad. It got so bad that Scarlets fans were making banners with Tandy in written on them. So, that tells you all you need to know. So he left the Ospreys and he went and joined the Waratahs in Super Rugby, the Australian team from New South Wales based in Sydney. And had a good impact there. They finished 3rd in the league overall that season. That was in the weird Super 18 kind of era of Super Rugby, which is much maligned, but did well, had a good impact. So what we've got there already is a data set of both times that Steve Tandy has gone into a job. He has had a positive impact and immediately had an upturn in results. Second season with the Waratahs, he was just working as a defence coach, I should say. So he wasn't the head coach of the Waratahs, he was just the defence coach. Second season with the Waratahs as a defence coach, not as good. They weren't as competitive in the second season. I don't know all of the ins and the outs of what happened with their squad, what else was going on, but the finishes on paper were lower. After his stint with the Waratahs, he got headhunted by the Scotland men's international team and went to them for the 2020 Six Nations, ahead of the 2020 Six Nations, I believe. And again, had an immediate positive impact. He gave Scotland the best defensive record in the Six Nations that season. They averaged just 1 try conceded per game. Unfortunately, Scotland being Scotland, this didn't mean that they won the Six Nations. They still finished 4th. And in his time with Scotland, the highest they finished in the Six Nations is 3rd once. Now, people who are fans of Tandy will focus on the defence and how good Scotland's defence have been, and will say that that's responsible for them becoming more competitive. You could also argue that it's not really had a material effect on their results. They haven't really climbed particularly higher in the world rankings. They haven't really troubled the nations above them much more. And the recent tours, you could say that Scotland have been stat padding by playing weaker opposition. This is not a video about Scottish rugby, so we'll leave it at that. But he must have been doing a bit of a good job, Steve Tandy, with Scotland, because he got picked by Warren Gatland to be the defence coach of the Lions in the tour of South Africa in 2021. How successful was that? It's difficult to say. The Lions lost that test series, is all we can say. It's always difficult to judge. You can't take the warm-up games against the URC, as they are now, teams into it, because they were so uncompetitive. There wasn't like an Argentina game that we compare against. There wasn't a South Africa A team, which was just South Africa. They just took the Springboks and wrote A next to it, gave them a little white thing on the kits, and the Lions lost that game as well. So was the defence horrendous? No. Was that tour successful? No. So that's his career up until now. Now he's been signed by Wales. Now, when Warren Gatland left the Wales coaching job, Abby Tierney said, and she says a lot of things, she said in the press conference, we've got the money to go and buy anyone out of their contract that we want. And the 2 names that were immediately mentioned was Franco Smith from Glasgow and Simon Easterby. And I was very happy with those. My personal opinion, I was very happy with those 2 nominations. For whatever reason, it looks like Franco Smith hasn't been available. There's rumours about him not being that happy at Glasgow anymore. Whether you believe that or not is up to you. Apparently he was interested in the Bulls job. He hasn't got that job. I'm wearing a Bulls top, but funny coincidence. So I think Franco Smith would have been a better appointment. I think he's got a better CV as a head coach than Steve Tandy. That's my opinion. Easterby, I think, would have been a very, very good fit as well. Having looked back at the results on paper, Easterby, Tandy, I think there's not much in it there. Maybe my own personal opinion would still be Easterby, because he's experienced a much higher performing environment in the Ireland role than Tandy has with Wales. I can see a world where they could work together, where Easterby could be brought into a director of rugby type role. I know we've just appointed a director of rugby, but should that change, I can see those 2 working together potentially. Defensively minded coaches. Like I said, we have the data that tells us that Tandy is able to have an immediate positive impact when he arrives somewhere. So that's good. Will he be more suitable to this generation of players than Warren Gatland was, than someone like Jake White would have been, who was another player that was linked? Yes, I'm pretty sure that is the case. But I think the thing that tells the story most is that when people are reflecting on this appointment, is that they are saying that Steve Tandy is probably the best that we could have gotten. Which I think sums it up. Is not the best available. Some people have said he's the best available. All coaches are available. Rock up with a checkbook to whoever employs them, you can get them. Right? All coaches are available. All coaches want test gigs. So when people are saying, oh, he's the best that we could have got, it's kind of telling the story. Anyway, I've been talking for 9 minutes, so I'll leave it there. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Cheers, bye.